Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everyone. My name is Miriam MacDonald. I'm board member of NOAC, and I'd like to welcome you all here this morning. It's great to see such a huge crowd and to hear all the chats and everything. I mean, one of the purposes of today is to gather you all together, to exchange experiences and to allow networking. So it's great to see that that has happened. I don't know, many of you have broken your New Year's resolutions already by taking part in the croissants, etc. So confessions will be held afterwards. Anyway, I'd like to welcome you to the Good Practice Seminar, NOAC's Good Practice Seminar, and I won't take much time, but as usual, you know, with these events, we have to do thank yous. So first of all, I'd like to thank the OPW and Kilkenny County Council for this lovely venue. We've had this now for a couple of years, and everyone loves it, I suppose, is the way to put it. And it's just really, it gives such a warm feeling for all of the discussions we'll have today. I'm delighted that so many of you have taken the time to come today, and particularly I'd like to welcome the representatives and elected members from the Southern Regional Assembly, the LAMA, the AILG, the LGIU, Department of Housing and Local Authorities, and of course the LGMA and CCMA with whom this event is organised, and my fellow NOAC board members. Thank you all very much for coming. And as you know, NOAC is the National Oversight and Audit Commission for Local Government in Ireland. And, you know, I was kind of looking at, well, what do we do? And simple thing you could say was, well, they just produce reports. And I suppose we don't just produce reports. We do produce reports, but the aim of the reports is that they help you. And so we produce things like the performance indicator report, the spending code reports, and the scrutiny reports. And we continue to improve that in terms of visibility and communications. We are doing some more work on the scrutiny process that some of you will have heard of already. And we hope that we can continue to add value to you. You know, we're not, yes, you know, part of our title is audit, but it's also about supporting and identifying areas where you can either, you know, compare with each other or identify good practices, which is what we're about today, trying to show you different things that different local authorities are doing, and perhaps there might be some learnings for yourselves that you can bring back. And I always think at a day like this, if you can bring one thing back, the day has been successful. You know, it's not that you're going to be interested in everything, but if there's one thing there, that's a good day. So other people I just have to thank is Anne Tehan and Aisling Doyle in the OPW, and also Dave Drummy, Anna and Jacinta from the LGMA, who have been working so hard on this event. And of course, I'd like to thank the NOAC Secretariat. From my personal experience, I'd be completely lost without them. They're just fantastic. So thank you all very much. We have a couple of panels today as well. And, you know, the idea sometimes with the panels, yes, we have some questions for the panel members, but really the purpose of the panels is questions from you and discussions from you. So I'd encourage you, don't let them just have their nice, easy questions. Do come and engage with the panels when we get to that stage. Having set up the panel members now, I would like to thank the panel members for participating in the panels. Don't run away before we finish. So thank you all very much for coming today. I appreciate it's a day away from work and your emails and all are building up as we speak. But thank you for taking the time. I hope you'll find it valuable. And I'll hand over to Jonathan now, who's our MC for the day. Thank you.
Miriam Guramaga, thank you very much indeed. Díomh Gadir agus tá fáilte roh gotí an áling seo Cashlan Kilkenny agus tá anás an bheith an seanclaimh live inniu. Welcome on behalf of NOAC and Kilkenny Castle's 56 ghosts to this wonderful conference here today. We may meet some of them later on, but some of them are on a work rule, so we'll find out as time goes on. It's lovely to be back with you here again today to celebrate the very best in what local authorities right around the country are doing on behalf of the people that they serve. And everything that you are doing is to the benefit of your own communities, the communities in which you live and in which you work. I often describe local authority as trying to drive a car with one foot on the brake and the other foot on the accelerator at the same time while maintain momentum in the car. It's a difficult thing to do, but it is something that is achieved. And we're going to hear, as Miriam said, some great ideas that are coming through from each of the local authorities across the course of today. We have got Slido in operation today, and we can throw up the thing on the screen there if we can. So this is the one opportunity you have to take out your phones, ladies and gentlemen, and ignore all the emails that have been building up. Someone else can deal with them today. If you can click on this QR code on the screen, that's going to bring you through to Slido. And what I would like you to do, there's a question there in the poll: which local authority are you representing today? So it's a very simple question. If you can't answer that, then there might be something wrong with the croissants downstairs. So if you can, put in your question, which is what's it, straight away, Claire. Typical Claire getting in there just to annoy me after last year and what she did. Donegal, Kerry is in there as well. Waterford, Mayo in there, a bit more from Cork, Kerry County Council. So they're all going in there, they're all flying in, which is great to see. But normally, as you know, I like to just check for signs of life because it's early in the morning. So what I would like is if we can have a very somber cheer when I call out your province. Okay, so I need a very somber cheer from the good people of Leinster. That's a little bit more somber than I would have liked it to have been, but it's good that you got in there. Can we go north to Ulster? Wonderful. As you can see, they're not talking to each other. There's one over there and one over there. Connacht. Hey, the boys. Mayo for Sam. And finally, the most... That's not what you meant, no. Sorry, you're changing your mind. And then the last one, ladies and gentlemen, and the very respectable people of Munster. They never let me down. Fair play to you, lads. Thank you very much. Proof of life has been secured. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring up each of our presenters who are going to take to the podium here. They will have 15 minutes each. I have to apologise in advance for the state of my footwear. I'm sure some of you have noticed them already. All I can describe it as business up here, going for a jog down there. And the reason for that is I broke my toe last Friday week, so I'm hobbling. So I'm going to hobble at the 10-minute mark from my seat over there to catch your eye line to tell you you have 5 minutes left. And if you go over the 15 minutes, I'm going to have to hobble up and drag you off stage, because the one thing we need to do is try to keep the time today. So you have 15 minutes on stage, each of your presenters. And the good news is we have got time for Q&A through Slido a little bit later on. But we are going to begin up in the very north of the country with one of the proudest local authorities that I have to say I've ever encountered. Very happy with everything that they've achieved, and why wouldn't they be? To talk about Leo and lean methodology, will you please welcome Brenda Hegarty from Donegal County Council. Brenda.
Gora mai agus Giadív. I'm absolutely delighted to be here this morning representing Ulster and Donegal. I think there's few of us here, but there's at least one comrade. I think Brian's in the room. So my name is Brenda Hegarty. I am the Head of Enterprise with the Local Enterprise Office, and I'd like to just give you an overview of how we drove forward our digital transformation journey using lean methodology. Better get... I assume this is my clicker. I should have checked this before I came in. Is that us? Oh, yes. So, I'm going to, just an overview of what I'll be speaking about, just the context of digital transformation, looking at the key drivers of change within the office, a little bit about the lean methodology and how we applied it within the Local Enterprise Office, and then just looking at the impact and some recommendations going forward. So, obviously you're all well aware of Connecting Government 2030, and that really sets out the digital transformation ambitions of the government, and it is looking at how we can embrace digitalisation in the delivery of government services in the future. And it's not just about driving the focus on digitalisation, but it's stepping up the pace of the change that we will be embracing. And by 2030, 90% of the relevant services will be delivered digitally to our customers. So in terms of Donegal, where we were looking at, the critical point for us was to try and move to a paperless office. So drive digitalisation, adopt some of the digital technology. So we already had been using Submit application technology from around 2019, but we're only using it for a set piece of our applications around our Measure 1, and it was about extending and optimising the use of that technology, improving our services, and it's all about delivering to our clients and improving the service in terms of speed, accessibility and high quality, as well as being functional and pleasurable is probably the critical aspiration in the digital journey. Looking at driving efficiencies internally, reducing bureaucracy, and obviously that key word of doing more for less. And most importantly for us was drive a culture of innovation within the office and that strive for continuous improvement. So internally, in terms of the drivers for change, the local enterprise office, like many of our services, has been on a significant journey from COVID. So pre-COVID to post-COVID, it's unrecognisable. Our budget has increased by 60%. The number of our services have actually increased by over 200%. So we've gone from just under 200 applications to 670 plus applications coming through the door. But the resource uplift has been quite low, just one increase in our personnel. So that really was a critical driver. Another driver was around the post-COVID. The need for blended working, the manual files were no longer relevant and appropriate in that blended working. So we needed to be able to access our files remotely. And also then looking at where our efficiencies were, we knew that a lot of our processes were designed for a different era, actually designed by a different team. There was a lot of new members in, and we wanted to free up our resource, internal staffing, so that we could do much more front-facing, client-facing work. Externally then, the key drivers was looking at, I suppose, our client and our customers are now much more digitally savvy. They expect to be able to access our services 24/7 in a fast, efficient way. And also looking, we were leading out on the digital transformation agenda on behalf of government. So we were offering our micro and small businesses the drive to digitally transform themselves. So it was really important that we could lead by example, that we could evidence what that digital transformation journey would be. And obviously then alignment with the government strategy that we would have 90% of our services delivered digitally. So lean is about digital transformation is a puzzle that we all have to understand. By no means am I an expert in digital transformation, but we wanted to aspire to our digital journey, but you cannot just transform the existing services digitally, because all you'll get is faster, bad processes. So the first thing in the digital journey is to look internally at our processes, and lean methodology allows that structured approach to look at how we're doing things and how we can do them better. So it's a very simple philosophy, because it's all about adding value from a customer perspective and the elimination of waste. And the other critical thing about lean methodology is that it's people-centred. So it's about encouraging the full team within your office to embrace the methodology and be part of the change journey. So lean is all about driving not just efficiencies but effectiveness, so doing the right things in the right way, being quicker, better, cheaper, and stamping out waste. And also that continuous ethos of continuous improvement. So when you're on a lean journey, you're never ending. It's a journey. You take project by project and continue the methodology going forward. So lean, many of you may have heard of it before. It's very much used within the manufacturing. So a lot of businesses would use lean methodology, and it originated in Toyota. And again, it's not just for manufacturing. It's widely used globally across public sector, health sector, insurance sector. So not just manufacturing businesses, but services and government as well. And it's all about engaging people to deliver out better service. So I'm not going to run through every aspect of Lean today, but there's a few critical principles, and the first of them is looking at value. So really scrutinising our processes from a customer lens. So it's identify that it's value added, is customer, what the customer values should be retained. Then there is some things that the customer doesn't value, but it's necessary from a legislative perspective, so that's business value added. And then everything else is deemed to be non-value added or waste. And you re-engineer your process to remove out that waste. There's a number of different methodologies and tools. One of them is looking at a SIPOC. So it's really analysing the different parts of your process from a supplier input, process output and customer perspective, and using that to get a good overview of our processes. Because like many of you and within the local enterprise office, you assume that processes are one way, but when you actually unpack them, they're completely different to what you think they are or should be. The DMAC is also a very useful tool in terms of both prioritising projects that you want to escalate for lean experimentation, but also in terms of when you've identified a project to really unpack how you can scrutinise the process and imagine the future state and lock it in with the improvements and control out the process. And the final piece of tools there that I wanted just to highlight, just the different types of tools that's available within the methodology, is the root cause is a critical feature of Lean. So really understanding where the problems are in the system, but the root cause of what is causing those problems so that you can better improve the process. And that PDCA plan check, plan, do, check, act is a useful tool in that framework. So in terms of how we applied Lean within the local enterprise office, first thing was really to commit to the digital transformation and setting out that original vision that we were moving to be paperless, that we were going to remove out all our manual files by the 1st of January 2025. So what we then back from that, we did an initial workshop, and again ensuring that everybody had a good understanding of Lean. Now obviously we offer Lean to our small businesses, so there was an onus on us to be able to understand what we were offering to our businesses. So that initial workshop was about building up an understanding of Lean and maybe identifying a few quick wins. And the quick win for us was looking at our inquiry process, how people engaged with the office and how we can better digitalise that system. So that was the first action project that we did. Then we embedded some champion training, so looking at really getting the team to take ownership of Lean, and in order to do that, we had yellow belt training for 5 internal champions, including myself. We mapped out our processes. We looked then at what projects we wanted to progress, and that was looking at both impact and cost of the different prioritisation of projects. We digitalised then, so once we had mapped out and looked at our processes, then we were in a better state to digitalise the services in terms of inquiries, applications and payments, monitor, review, validate and continuous improvement. So we're just at the start of this journey, but even within a 9-month period, we have been able to progress quite significantly within the office. And this here, just in terms of the approach, and it's very much like any change management tool. It's assessing your current situation, looking at where the bumps are in the processes, where the challenges are, looking at the causes in terms of the opportunity for process improvement. The importance is not jumping from step A to step D, to really analyse and scrutinise so that you identify the right projects, the causes and the best improvements. and then looking at setting up a team to embrace those changes, looking at the cost, the impact, and the outcomes that would result in that. So overall then, in conclusion, within Donegal, we have had significant success with this journey, using lean methodology to transform and digitalise our services. So all of our grant schemes are now digitalised, so all of our applications, all of our inquiries. We have also, as well as the applications, all our payment systems are digitalised, so there is no longer any manual files within the office. Everything is signed off digitally. We have reduced our grant payment times by 1/3, so 1 week reduced. Grant decision times, again, has been expedited by, we've quickened that up by 50%. And most importantly, we've freed up our resources. So one example, we've removed an administration resource out of one of our processes entirely, and that has freed up 1/4 of our time to do better stuff. So it is about just doing things better from a customer perspective, but then it drives internal efficiencies. And most important to us is the culture of change within the office and that drive for continuous improvement and innovation. So the 3 critical factors for success for digital transformation and the process improvement is all around people, process and technology, and it's in that order. And probably just in advance of that is setting the leadership and the high-level vision to commit to digital transformation and then engage in the process, making sure your team are trained and skilled and embrace the need for the change and the principles around that change. Looking at the processes and using your lean methodology to improve those processes. And then the 3rd step is the technology. A lot of people in digital transformation take the technology first without unpacking what we're currently doing. So I think it's a useful tool. Happy to take any questions during the panel. Thanks a million.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Brenda. There has never been a system created by man that has not benefited from someone having a look at it and improving it. And the great thing, what I love about that is all the businesses and all the customers, as you described it, that you're engaging with, they're all nearly using this in every other asset of their life. So therefore, they kind of expect it from their local authority, and therefore you're delivering something that really meets a need, which is brilliant. So do get some questions in if you have them regarding lean, and we'll come back to them a little bit later on. Another key challenge, ladies and gentlemen, for your sector is property and what you can do to try and find homes for people. It's again one of the big conundrums of the modern era is trying to get local authorities to fill a void that has been created not by you guys but by other elements. And one of the level criticisms that is thrown at you is, why aren't you doing more of that vacancy? Why aren't you doing more, particularly about those properties that are there? Properties, by the way, you don't own, but people expect you to do something with. Now, Dublin City Council has been very proactive in this regard, and I'm delighted to say our second speaker is talking about adapt and reuse of vacant property from Dublin City Council. Will you please welcome Fiona Creighton, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you to NOAC and the CCMA for organising this event this morning. So the Adaptive Reuse Unit was set up 2 years ago within the Housing Department of Dublin City Council. It was established as an innovation unit aimed at creating new approaches to social housing development through acquisition of commercial property. Is it the green? Yeah. Okay. So as we know, there's a very high level of vacancy in commercial property in Dublin. The recent Geodirectory report from Q2 of last year indicated that over 13% of commercial buildings are fully vacant. There's probably the same amount again of partially vacant buildings. So if we include over-the-top vacancy and fully vacant buildings, in some areas of Dublin City Council we have up to 29% vacancy in commercial property. our estimates are that there are about 4,000 vacant or excuse me, or partially vacant commercial buildings in the Dublin City Council administrative area, and that number is continuing to increase. So over the past 2 years, we've been assessing properties that come on the market from the perspective of their suitability for conversion to apartments, and in particular for the creation of social housing. We've completed 17 feasibility studies, and so far we've received funding approval for 6 projects. So I'm going to present mainly today on our flagship project, which is a property on Fitzwilliam Quay. I don't know why that's not moving on. Hold on. Really? No?
This could be one of the ghosts getting involved on the top.
Oh, right, I'm hitting a different one. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay, so this is our flagship project. So it's the first property that we purchased. It was a vacant office building that came for sale on the market just after we established the unit. So it kind of already looks like an apartment block. There's apartments adjacent to the building on either side. It's in an excellent location. It just it's in Ringsend, and it faces onto the River Dodder, and it's overlooking the Aviva Stadium there. It has great transport connections. You can walk into the city. It's adjacent to a DART station, and it has really good bus routes. So this was a really good opportunity for us. It was a relatively newly built building, and it was just becoming vacant, which means it had been occupied up to the point where we bought it, which meant that there was the building was in good condition. So our process is then that what we do is we engage an architect to carry out a feasibility study for any building that we're interested in, and we go through a number of options for the potential for conversion of the property to apartments. We carry out a building condition survey, and then we prepare a cost plan for development of the property. So in this case, we saw that the optimum solution was to create 15 one-bedroom apartments, so 5 one-bedroom apartments on each floor. And then we prepare a total cost estimate for the project, which includes the acquisition of the property. So in this case, the cost of the development was in the region of 420,000. So that's pretty high, but it's actually a very good value for cost for the delivery of social housing, and particularly in the Dublin 4 area. New build social housing development is significantly higher in that area. So then our next stage in the process is we prepare a business case, and we submit a funding application to the Department of Housing. We do that through the Social Housing Investment Programme funding mechanism, and once we receive approval, then we can engage and commence to purchase the property. So we were successful in this case, and we acquired the building in March of last year. So as well as converting the building into apartments, we're running a number of kind of sub-projects within the building. Ringsend is identified as a decarbonisation zone under the Climate Action Plan in Dublin City Council. So there's a lot of happening in the area. There's a district heating project and a waste energy project. So we really wanted to focus on this as a kind of flagship climate action project, actually more than a social housing project, because this is kind of becoming more evident as we did our feasibilities. So the building was in really good condition, and there's really good fixtures and fittings in the buildings, like glass partitions and doorways and blinds, kitchen and bathroom fixtures and fittings, and shelving units. So we're running a circular economy project as part of a sub-project as part of this project, where we are going to reuse all of these internal fixtures and fittings, and hopefully that will generate additional income for the project as well, possibly. Another sub-project that we're running is we were slightly delayed in appointing a design team to the project. There was an issue with procurement. So in the meantime, then we've actually arranged for meanwhile use of the ground floor office. We don't like to leave buildings vacant for prolonged periods. There's quite a lot of work to do in terms of inspections and management and ensuring there's no unauthorised occupation of the building. So it's actually really good to have somebody using the building, even if it's only temporarily. So our Climate Action Office has a regen project that they're running, and they use the ground floor office about 1 or 2 days a week now, and the office space is being used to host a drop-in centre to provide energy information and solutions to the Ringsend and Poolbeg community. And another sub-project that we're delivering as part of the project is, so there's a kind of a hard-standing car parking area to the front of the property. We'll be depaving that and installing green infrastructure, sustainable drainage systems. And we're also hoping to pilot the first share car service in social housing developments in Dublin. So that's been done quite successfully in cities like Bremen in Germany, and we're hoping to do that here. So that will be a private share car, like one car to share between the 15 apartments. So in summary, I suppose why we see this project as exemplifying good practice is, number one, we can deliver social housing at reduced cost when compared to new build development in the Dublin City Council area. It's an example of a best practice approach to low carbon housing development. There's about 70% less carbon output from reusing an existing building than there is for a new build development. We're delivering the circular economy project, reusing the fittings and fixtures as much as possible, and we've arranged for meanwhile use of the building to ensure that we're, maximising the potential of the building while we're delivering it through the design phase, planning phase, and before we get to construction. And also then we have the inclusion of the innovative mobility management solution in the project. So just a note then on the climate action targets. Sorry, this isn't moving on again. Okay. So the Irish Green Building Council have done a lot of work modelling basically the planned development to 2030. And if we keep going the way we're going for the next 5 years, kind of prioritising new build development, instead of reducing our carbon carbon emissions by 40%, we'll actually increase them. And then they've run a number of modelling exercises, and they've shown that sorry, this is having problems with this again. Okay, that they have proposed a roadmap to 2030, which includes a number of objectives, mainly that we have to significantly reduce the carbon intensity of new development, but also that at least 124,000 of our new homes have to be created by reusing existing properties if we're going to meet our climate action targets. So I'm hearing a lot of numbers being put out about what the fines will be. The most recent I heard is that we'll be paying 30 billion in fines if we don't reach our climate action targets. So that's significant. So we really need to be promoting this type of development. Now I'm just going to, so I presented there in our flagship project, and I'm just going to run through a few of the other feasibility studies that we've done over the last 2 years. This is another building that we purchased it's in Phibsborough. It's kind of along the shopping area in Phibsborough Village in Dublin. It's a former bank. It was vacant for a long period. There's quite a lot of issues with access to the building, and then there's the vaults and the safes from the bank. So there was a number of reasons why maybe it wasn't selling on the market. So we acquired this building. So as you could see in this case, the cost per apartment is 560,000. So it's very high, higher than, let's say, the final valuation of the apartments. But this is kind of the reality in Dublin. Most of the vacant property are these kind of smaller buildings, maybe of historic significance or protected structures, and these make up the majority of the buildings in Dublin that are causing the vacancy and dereliction problem. Another one that we've acquired is this protected structure on Capel Street. This had been vacant for a long period. There's a lot of work happening in Capel Street. We pedestrianised the street recently, and so we really don't want to see buildings remaining vacant and falling derelict. So in this case, we'll be converting the upper floors to 4 apartments, and we'll be retaining the ground floor. In the previous one, we're actually converting the ground floor to apartments, but in this one, we're retaining it as for commercial use. In this case, then, we needed to get 2 different funding sources, because the way the funding systems work in the Department of Housing is there's separate funding for social housing, and then separate funding if you also have a commercial unit in the development. So as I said, we've done 17 feasibility studies kind of across a wide range of properties. these are 4 more examples. The one on the left is, again, a former bank that's been vacant for a number of years. In this case, on the image on the bottom left, you can see that we included 2 one-bed mews houses in the rear. So it's not just the conversion of the properties. If we have available space, we also propose to build to the rear of the buildings. And then the 3 buildings on the right are protected structures. There's a lot of vacancy now coming on the line in George and Dublin, both on the north and south side. So it was really good to do those feasibility studies. Again, the cost for conversion of those properties is slightly higher than when compared with the first project that I presented. This is just kind of a collage of images that was prepared by 3rd-year geography students in DCU. We worked with Kathleen Stokes, who's the lecturer on that course, and they did some vacancy surveying with us one day. So they walked around the city and they identified vacant and partially vacant property, and also identified the potential or the adaptive potential in the buildings. So these kind of collages actually give quite a good impression of the typology of building. Initially, when we started our unit, we thought that there would be larger vacant office buildings that we could maybe create 50 apartments, but actually that's not the case. And the reality is that we have about 4,000, small, tricky buildings that are vacant at the moment. So it's going to be a challenging task. So the key learnings then from our what we've done in the last 2 years is that number 1, creating new homes through adaptive reuse can be less expensive than new build. So of the 17 feasibility studies that we've done, in only 1 case was the project not viable. Also, it's quite evident that increased financial supports are needed in the case of protected structures and heritage buildings, not necessarily the case in newer office buildings. So it's not just a case of having a funding mechanism that provides funding for all adaptive reuse projects. It really needs to be specific to the project. The private sector they're constantly calling out for additional support to de-risk these projects, design support and de-risking from a planning perspective. And also another thing we've learned is that we really do need a better way to assess the value of these projects. At the moment, I suppose when the Department of Housing is assessing a funding application, they just see it in terms of what is the cost of creating a new home. They don't see the reduced costs in terms of the infrastructure that doesn't need to be delivered, or the fact that we're meeting our climate action targets by continuing to promote these developments. So we have a lot to learn, I suppose, as we progress the projects. We have 6 projects on our programme at the moment, and hopefully I'll be able to present again in a few years when we've done a little bit more. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Fiona. That is fascinating because, we spent enough time talking on Newstalk Breakfast about derelict buildings, and I'm delighted to hear that. And I can't wait to tell Shane Coleman about the one in Philipsburg. He's always banging on about Philipsburg as if it's the only place in the world that matters. But it just goes to show you that with the right frame of mind, the change that a local authority can actually have and make a real impact. And I'm looking forward to seeing that unit come to more fruition. Now, our next topic is trees. And if you are to believe a certain narrative, local authorities simply hate them. No idea why, but always criticised for not doing enough to protect trees. But the good news is we have got a local authority that is bringing a unique perspective on it. It is, again, unfortunately, Clare. But the good news, you're not going to beat us this year, sure you're not.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what's happened at all. We have 3 presenters here. In a moment, we're going to hear from Patrick Tiernan from Balvis Patadia. I hope I got that right. And first of all, we have Alfie Jones to talk about Clare County Council and their tree survey application and dashboard. Alfie.
Morning, everybody. Just thank you to the CCMA and NOAC for inviting us here to present on this project. I hope you'll find it beneficial, and hopefully maybe some of your authorities will see the benefit of expanding out to yourselves as well. So, harnessing digital for sustainable management of urban forests. Just the innovation strategy, just to give a little bit of history on how this was developed. In 2022, Clare County Council actually introduced an innovation strategy, which is aligned to making innovation real from the department. The priorities on it were citizen-centric, culture of innovation, and scale-up innovation. Now, one of the things I will say here is not all projects are digital, and the library have been very successful in delivering non-digital projects that have been very innovative as well. But today we're going to concentrate on one of the digital projects that we have delivered. From my perspective, it brought governance to the decision of what systems we were going to develop. So if a project was going to come through the innovation strategy, it was prioritized by the innovation strategy, and it was only taken on if we had the resources to deliver it, not only from ICT's perspective, but also from the operational perspective. And one of the key requirements as well is that it was sustainable going forward. So to date, the project has been very successful, and we have delivered a large number of projects through it, from the Lifeguards Digitalisation Project. And you see a picture up there of Bhavesh, who actually won Emerging Star, Digital IC Star in the public service last year because of a similar project, a Lifeguards project. And also, it was fundamental, or one of the key drivers in Clare County Council winning the CIPD award for embracing new ways of working. So now at this present moment in time, we have about 100 outdoor workers who have tablets using various systems, from health and safety, from tree surveys to housing surveys, and they're proving very, very successful. We've also introduced a number of aligned to Lean that we've talked about earlier, where we've reduced the number of paper systems. We use Submit for applications. We have online applications for housing grants. And in the pipeline, we have a system to improve the management of derelict sites. And we'll also be the test site for the housing loans programme through the MyCoco portal. So derelict sites coming through. I am actually going to pass you over now to Patrick, who's actually going to give you the real demonstration of how this has actually benefited them from an operational perspective.
All right, thanks, Alfie. So I'm going to bring you through a couple of slides here about this project where we developed a digital solution to managing the urban forest within Ennis. It's working there. Yeah, so like all towns throughout Ireland, I suppose, Ennis, it's home to many trees within public areas for which the local authority is responsible for. So the pre-existing method we had for managing our trees was predominantly a paper-based system, and our records were generated via complaints from the public or from councillors or from surveys carried out by our own staff. And then about twice a year we'd create tender documents, and maintenance contract would be, carried out by a contractor. But we found, due to the volume of the trees within Ennis and the fact that the trees are not physically tagged, it proved really, really difficult to identify individual trees, and hence it was impossible to maintain any sort of user-friendly control system for management of trees. The whole process was very time-consuming, inefficient, and more importantly, we felt that we were exposing ourselves to a high degree of risk in the event a tree fell in a car or property. And I suppose that's even more prevalent now in light of the storm Éowyn we had there in the past couple of weeks. So now on to the solution. So a colleague of ours who has since retired, he had a vision, and his vision was to create a digitised register of trees. And an opportunity of a grant presented itself via the Heritage Council, and our application was successful. The project, it included a number of measures, including the development of software and an app, and also the survey of 500 trees within Ennis. And it was this survey, I suppose, that provided the seed data for the development of the software and was ultimately used to develop and test the app. So I'm after moving on too quickly, but anyway, so for we forget that. But so for us engineers, I suppose, as you can see, we're having trouble with IT, but we also had trouble. You know, we didn't know how we were going to go about develop this software and this app. So initially, we contacted some companies in Ireland and UK who had experience in this field, but you know, we quickly found ourselves in an uncomfortable environment, and we were way over our heads. So, you know, through conversations with the guys here in IT, we quickly realised that we had the in-house expertise to, you know, deliver this project. So we obtained approval from the innovation team of Clare County Council for the delivery of the digitised solution, and it would be delivered by our IT team. And this proved crucial for us engineers because we can maintain a lot more control over the project itself without having to rely on a third-party contractor. Once the software and app was developed, we organised training for staff in the use of the field tablets, and also specific tree identification training so that the guys could identify and record the various species of trees that we had within the town. Okay, so the tree management, or the digitised system, is in place about 12 months now, and I have to say we're very happy with how it's all worked out and how the system is performing. The software and the app, they're very user-friendly, and it only takes about 6 or 7 minutes to record and survey a tree in the field. Each tree is geolocated, and a unique identification number is generated automatically via the app and the software. Photographs of trees are also uploaded onto the app during the survey process, and this makes it extremely easy to identify individual trees and also record any physical defects, as well as any maintenance activities carried out to individual trees. And based on the data inputted at the time of the survey, each tree is assigned an automatic risk rating, and we've instant access to this data through the dashboard, which Bhavesh will speak about in a moment. But this risk rating method is very important for us, as it makes it very easy for us to prepare tenders, as we can instantly see on our dashboard what trees are at risk and what trees are in need of maintenance. The digitised system has also other benefits, including assistance in defending public liability claims, and you know, the software and the app, it's expandable and it's transferable to other areas within the Clare County Council and further afield. And all in all, you know, we have found it to be a very efficient and effective way of managing the urban forest within Ennis. So I'm now going to hand you over to Bhavesh, who's going to bring you through the more technical elements of the project.
Thank you, Patrick. Good morning, everyone. I'm Bhavesh. I'm the technical lead who developed this solution. So I will go through some of the salient technical features of this application and dashboard. I'll not take more time. It will be followed by the demonstration of the video. So this application, it supports agile development. It captures the current location of the tree. So we'll not have any manual errors. It has drop-down options, and it does the automatic calculations on the fly. It eliminates manual data collection and reduces the potential errors. It is also a scalable solution, so it can be, given to any other local authority who is interested in this. and it also has the security protocols in place. So I'll quickly now dive into the demonstration of the application. Browse from your device, or you can capture the photo while you're on site. It creates the unique ID on the fly. So does the automatic calculations as well as on the British standards. It also supports the complicated calculations based on what you're feeding in the application. It will define the risk rating on the fly. Once you submit, it will be viewed in the dashboard like this. You can filter based on the risk rating and age of the tree. You can also see in the tabular view in the dashboard. Once you click on the tree, you will find the information of each tree with the photo. You can also see the 3D. So when you click on that, you will see the actual photo of the tree with the information collected from the site. There is many more to this, but I'm conscious of time, so I'm not going to go in all details. Now I'll quickly move to the technology and devices we used. So we used ArcGIS Online for creating the survey forms and dashboard. And we use Power Automate from Microsoft to send out the email notifications and creating reports. We used Samsung Galaxy Tab Active 5. And for security, we use Microsoft Intune. Similar to Tree Solution, we also developed some of the management dashboards for our housing section, like RTB inspection dashboard. We also developed defective block scheme dashboard for the housing. There was another interesting dashboard we developed for our HR team. It shows the online job applications and the patents. And there was another one for lifeguards. Last summer we built it for them, which also won one of the awards for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. I take that clicker off you there. I just think that that's a great example of the type of work that you can do. And just, you take technology that you've used once, and then you use it again. And you've loads of different ways of doing that. So at this point, I'd like to bring up our wonderful panel. So Michael McCarthy is joining us here. He's the chair of NOAC. Michael, good to see you again. I'd like to invite Alfie to join us again, if you can join us on stage in a moment, Alfie. And Fiona and Brenda are going to join us here too. So we're just going to get them mic'd up if we can. And then we can crack on. Yeah, lovely. You've one of them. Do you want to sit there in the middle, Alfie? And we'll put you next to me here. Brenda and Fiona will join us there as well. And in a minute, sure, we'll all be ready to rock and roll. And I'm going to hand this one over to you. You can use that microphone there. So we just have to... Now, I think, are we sucking diesel? We are. Great. Lads, thank you very much. Slido, if you want to get your questions in, please do send them to us right now, because I think there's many questions that I don't have the answers to that this audience probably does. I'm going to begin with you, Michael. We've three brilliant examples here of just what innovation in the local authority sector looks like.
No, absolutely. It's quite impressive. And I think I was just at the back observing proceedings and looking at the presentations, and I just reminded myself of what it's about. It's about good practice. And having listened and watched through the presentation, it's just an indication of the breadth and the extent of services provided by local authorities in Ireland. But the common thread for me, the interesting kind of buzzword from all of them is innovation. It is so innovative. And by using today's platform, the objective from our perspective in NOAC is to share that good practice and reflect that good practice across all of the local authorities, but really, really impressed. And never ceases to amaze me in terms of whatever the issue might be, Like if you've got innovation behind the efforts to address it and the modern techniques like digitalisation, you end up with a perfect example of what is good practice in the local authority sector. So
And if I can go to you, Brenda, like, terrifying. Like, to do what you did is terrifying, because you have a system, you know, it's slow, but it works. And then you kind of rip it up and start again because you have the opportunity to do it. I mean, there's a bit of bravery involved in that first decision, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a bit of bravery, but it comes back to all of us having a passion to deliver good, effective services for our residents, our customers. So if you start with that passion of wanting to do good things in the best way with the resources we have, then it's a no-brainer. Because if you can spend a little time investing in understanding what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how you can do it better, then that will lead to much better, improved services. And that is not just for the customer, but internally for our staff, that they can be freed up to do better things, more interesting, that uses their skills.
Let's talk about staff, because again, people get used to doing things a certain way, and it was always thus. You know, when you start introducing these changes, how easy is it to bring colleagues along with you? Do they see the benefits immediately?
Yeah, not everybody will move at the same pace, and any change will.
That's not unique to the local authority, by the way. That's life.
So it's about harnessing those that are willing and able. So they're those that are able to move with it very fast. Then identifying those that are on their fence and maybe engaging them on a one-to-one or in a collective group. And then maybe parking those that are slightly resistant, but still engaging them, because they will be able to inform where the risks are or where the challenges are. So you can capitalise on their experience and input, but you're not going to bring everybody at the same pace. Yeah. And recognising that, but bringing those that are willing and able in the first instance, creating those change champions, and that's what we did with the training.
But interestingly, what I like what you said, you're not ignoring the ones that don't want to move at the fast pace, you're still listening to them.
Listening,
yeah,
yes.
And so that they still feel involved. The other thing is the ungrateful public who sometimes look at this. How quickly did they buy into this? I mean, you know, you never get praise for doing anything, but, you know, did people at least see the benefit and feed that back in, that, oh, this is much better than the old paper-based system, or the old idea that we used to have to wait so long for a response?
I suppose that 80-20 rule, 80% of our clients are digitally capable and able to engage. There will be still some of our clients and some of our businesses wanted to be able to still submit the manual and the applications offline. So it's again bringing everybody with you, but in the main, everybody's seeing the benefit of a faster, more responsive, more engaged service that we can deliver.
Fiona, one of the most frustrating things in the middle of this housing crisis that we're in at the moment is seeing derelict properties. And they're not derelict because, for the most part, because the council let them go derelict. They're derelict for any number of reasons. To take this particular bull by the horns is tricky, but I think your presentation has shown that it can be done.
Yes, definitely, and I think it's been a really good exercise, I think, to establish the unit so that we can understand what the challenges facing private sector developers, and we can fully understand those, that we can put in place the funding mechanisms and the real supports that will definitely deliver. It's a huge undertaking. You know, if we do have 4,000 projects, we have to figure out how we're going to deliver those in the coming years. And it's funny, with these kind of problems, you know, these really tricky problems, the solutions are not easy. So you know, they're put on the long finger, and nobody wants to take them on. But of course, then that kind of exacerbates the problem. It gets worse. So we do really need to start, you know, getting moving on these.
What is interesting is you are doing what a lot of private developers would do, but you're doing it from the inside. So you have to engage with your own colleagues in Dublin City Council. Is that giving you is that giving you a learning that, you know, like, I can see why this is an issue, and, you know, if we overcome this issue ourselves with this project, perhaps it will help our colleagues deal with the multitude of problems that they deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah, so a lot of what you hear from private sector developers is, in particular in relation to historic buildings and protected structures, is that it's really difficult to kind of overcome the design challenges relation to complying with the fire regulations and then also conservation protection. So the two things kind of are almost opposite. In terms of conservation, you want to try and open up a building. In terms of complying with fire regulations, you need to kind of close it down. And put
It's back to the brake and the accelerator bit I was talking about earlier.
So it's really just, and we hear this a lot. So then with Dublin City Council itself becoming the developer, having to face these challenges, we have to figure out how to overcome them. So one thing that we've done in our unit is we've set up a programme advisory group. So that comprises basically architects, planners, fire officers, building control officers. So we, if there's a challenging design challenge that we need to address on a particular project, we kind of convene the programme advisory group, we sit down and we find a solution to the project. So it's kind of similar to the one-stop shop system that is in place for the Living City initiative, but I think it's actually much more effective because it's about overcoming the challenge rather than just, I suppose, expecting a developer to meet a whole lot of really conflicting.
And I think that the unique thing that you're doing, and it's something that local authorities are doing a little bit more, is putting the community into projects that they're working on, and even if it is a temporary basis initially, but you've the idea that this building is still going to be a community hub for the car being parked outside or whatever. That to me is the real innovation here. It's not just we're landlords, there's your house now, off you go. It's about making these buildings a centre of the community that they're in.
Yeah, I think so. And if we do expand the programme, there'll be a huge opportunity to address the kind of needs in the community in terms of economic development, like engaging with a community, seeing what's needed, new office spaces and new shops. And actually, if we're doing it at scale, then there's much more opportunity to kind of coordinate, move shops from one building to another. Dublin City Council actually took a trip to Waterford City and County Council last week. 12 of us went down. Waterford have been doing an excellent job in this area for the last 10 years.
Have we anyone here from Waterford to give a whoop whoop?
Maybe not.
No whoop whoop from Waterford.
So they're all, what we're doing is much innovation. They're already doing.
And they'd very far to travel, God love them. You can understand why they're not here. Alfie, you know more about trees than my own local authority knows about me by the look of that. But how important is it to pull all that data together?
I think the data is really important. From an operational perspective, and that's Patrick's area, they actually have instant access to the information. They have the risk register actually there automatically. They can tender then for horticulturists to actually manage those trees and if needs be, cut them down to risk the danger to the public. So having that information on a dashboard, instant access, is absolutely fantastic and a fantastic resource.
But it goes back to the core. I mean, I made the joke about people thinking that the local authorities hate trees. That's not unique to any particular council. Every council gets accused of that. But in this particular context, you know intrinsically what's good, what's bad, and what's indifferent, and what needs to be protected and what needs to go, because you have the data, empirical data that you can use.
We're gathering that data, and there's a lot of trees, and we've got a subset of it, and it will be expanded. It's in the NSMD at the moment, and 1st of March it's expanding out to the Shannon MD, and the more data we collect. But yes, intrinsic value on that, and we're looking also of expanding that where we'll have a history. So if a tree is surveyed 5 years ago, we can see what progress it is, where it actually is. The danger to the public, there's a lot of emotive things if a large tree is cut down and we actually have the backup of it. Or if it does fall, there is that scenario where, well, we've actually analysed it. We've analysed it to an ISO standard, the British standards. So we actually have all of the data that is actually there to make sure we're doing it properly.
You can say, and again, it comes down to, I can't believe the council cut down my beloved tree that I climbed on as a child. But you can turn down as well, it was goosed. It was going to fall down and kill somebody if we didn't take it down ourselves. Michael, I have to go down and get my phone because the slide was on that. Oh, me too. If I can, Michael, this kind of initiative, the initiatives we're talking about here, they're so valuable to the local authority right across the country, because there's so much that people can take away and learn from these, and we're going to hear more later on. But innovation is just so important, and we don't, in the media, give much credit. We'll criticise you if you spend 20 cents badly, but we don't give enough credit for the stuff that goes well.
We don't. It's supposed to take the traditional headline, man bites dog. I mean, a headline in the Irish Times, the Irish Independent, about the local authority being innovative is something we won't see probably this millennium.
It's the equivalent of, I always say that there's no politician will ever attend the opening of a water treatment works. There's really nothing in it for them, whereas
Absolutely. Particularly if there's 20 million buried under the ground, they definitely won't go. But I think that kind of piece, and that's why the good practice seminar is important, to reflect all that is good about local authorities. And the other kind of thread running through that is public services. And it was put very well here by the panel. Like when people are driven by that ethos of community, community-led services, but that kind of ethos of public service, that commitment to public service is a really key piece of that. And if you look at the way, like if you just look, when you look back, when you look in the rearview mirror 10, 15, 20 years ago, like what's new and what's not. I mean, there was a time when we didn't have smartphones, we had limited connection to the internet. When I was
great. People using to answer the phone. It was fantastic. It was a great time.
Just the landline. I mean, I remember going to a phone box to ring someone to say you'll be late or pass on the message or write the note. I remember when I was elected to Cork County Council in 1999, and the first thing I did after the election was I bought a filing cabinet. It was about £100. And within 6 months, the filing cabinet was bursting at the seams. And now you're there on the laptop and you're in the cloud and you're putting stuff down. You're sitting, and that kind of, I think the way that kind of modern technology is developed and the way the local authorities have embraced that evolving technology and have used that in order to deliver public services is laudable. And I think the primary example, or at least the first experience in my thinking, was when the local authority system of taxing cars physically in the building moved by and large to online. I mean, that was a dream. I mean, anyone who had the task, arduous as it was, to go into County Hall in Cork and queue. But this is because this was a massive local authority, huge county, an authority for both Cork City and County in terms of the tax collection at the time. I know you can do it in a matter of seconds. It was the local authority, in my view, were the lead in terms of driving that type of
and freeing up the staff that you sit there dealing
and
day
it's much more efficient use of resources as well.
Let's go to some of the questions that have come through on Slido. For Brenda, what IT expertise did you require to assist with the digital transformation? Were they lean trained? Did you have much in-house that you could use, or did you have to bring in support from that side?
Yeah, well, I suppose we were one of the first adopters of Submit in Ireland, so we would have engaged that platform. So we already had the technology. We would work closely with our IS team in-house, and then it was just the utilisation of Submit technology and Adobe that allowed us to transfer.
I have no idea what you just said, but it sounded fierce good. Sounded fierce good. Alfie, have you plans for further digitalisation based on this system? And if yes, what other areas are you planning to digitalise in Clare County Council? We saw the lifeguards, that was cool.
We've already undertaken a number of projects and we're in negotiations now at this stage. We're working on a couple. The derelict sites is the next one we're actually going to deliver in-house. But we will go through the innovation process. I know the environmental team are looking for the environmental warders to be digitised. I know that's been done in other authorities as well, so we might actually borrow some of that code. But yes, we'll have a roadmap where we would aim to deliver about 5 to 6 projects a year.
Most of the questions are tree related. You'll be delighted to hear. Does your tree app address ash dieback? In fact, a lot of people are asking that question because it's such a huge issue.
Patrick is the one but he's nodding at me to say yes.
Yeah, he's nodding. It does address ash dieback because it's such a big thing. All issues. It records the issue as well, so you know the trees that are impacted by it. What expertise or training do tree surveyors need?
So that was one of the major advantages of this system actually. There was a guy by the name of Tommy Scott, and before Tommy retired from the council, he actually partaked his knowledge to Bhavesh and to Patrick and to Michael Corey again, who was the guy doing the video. So a lot of the calculations are automatically actually calculated by the system. However, the training of it, it's a very simple app to use. It takes about 6 minutes to do the survey, and training is less than a day. Okay,
and there's a very interesting question here. I love the way it's phrased. Do you survey only public trees? That's like the claim in Brexit that there was British fish. But I know what you're trying to say, trees that are on public land.
So it has been used to survey an estate that was going to be taken in charge to risk the trees that were actually there. So it can be used not just for public trees, but primarily was developed for public trees, but we don't mind. Whatever tree is there.
You're agnostic.
Yeah, we'll geolocate it and we'll be able to identify whether it's on public or private land.
Does the Dublin City Council unit also review vacant lots in the city? Are there skill sets that have been brought into the unit? So 2 questions there, I suppose both relevant.
Yeah, we have an active land, so my unit is in the housing department, but separately under planning and property development, we have an active land management unit, and they actively monitor vacant land.
And the other one is, do you interact with derelict sites, land use type, housing capital units? I suppose like that goes back to that integration piece, doesn't it? Who, like, do you sit there on your own hoping they'll come to you, or do you go to them?
Yeah, and that is one of the challenges, I suppose, with Dublin City Council being such a big organisation. You know, we've got over 6,000 staff, and there is a bit of a silo effect. But actually, even through, let's say, that visit last week with Waterford City and County Council, you know, that was with our housing department staff and joined up with the planning and property development, derelict sites staff and active land management. So we're trying to improve cooperation in that area. That's as an example, like that's how Waterford have done it. They work really well, collaborating across departments, and that's the approach that Dublin City Council.
Yes, it's kind of a leadership role, isn't it? That you're providing the leadership for the units to kind of come together, which is important. Another tree question, scalability of the tree survey. Is it an opportunity for ESB networks and Uisce Éireann and farm organisations to invest to try and minimise disruption in stormy situations? Like, I'm just, you know, anyone who, and again, I'm scared at mentioning Storm Éowyn's name here for fear of upsetting people who were caught in the middle of it, but the amount of poles and trees that were taken down on roadsides by the storm, I mean, there is potentially scalability there, isn't there?
There is scalability, and one of the questions that is already asked is it close to a power cable? Now, again, that could be developed further to actually be more specific. How close to that power cable, or is there a risk of it actually falling on it? The application could be expanded, I think, with minimal development to actually record that information.
I don't mean to insult you with this, but this is the most basic your system is ever going to be. It's only going to keep getting better and better and better, as is your system as well. So I mean, the great thing about new ideas is that they can only be improved upon, which is kind of where we're going, and we want people to take away from this. And I suppose that's the point, Michael, just to wrap up. You know, it's all very well with 3 local authorities doing great things here, but we want other local authorities to adopt these ideas, don't we?
And that's the purpose of the Good Practice Seminar. But even beyond that, and as you mentioned, Storm Éowyn, I mean, for example, one could only see a role with some type of interaction between EirGrid or ESB networks with the system being applied by Alfie and his colleagues. I mean, that kind of information is invaluable in terms of responding to what are now more frequent kind of extreme weather events. So that kind of benchmark of delivery of that type of public service in the local authority, I predict will be replicated across the semi-state sector as well.
Yeah, well, the good news is they're not going anywhere. You can have a chat with them over the tea break. Thank you to everybody who sent your questions in on Slido. Our panel, ladies and gentlemen, Gormaha Clare, thank you very much indeed. We'll let you take a seat. What we are going to do now, I mean, I've terrible news from the people here at Kilkenny Castle. You didn't eat enough of those croissants earlier, lads. So they're now available for second consumption if you want to. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a break for about 20-25 minutes. Teas and coffees are going to be out through that door over there. By the way, I meant to say at the start of the event, and Anne will give out to me, in the event of a fire, at this point, we'd all be fecked because I forgot to tell you what to do. So in the event of a fire, we are out through that door, and I always make the point at events like this, if you could order yourselves by grade and CEs go first, that would be fantastic. But teas and coffees out through that door over there, and the bathrooms are there as well. And we'll see you in about 20-25 minutes. Gormaha.